Rock 102, Springfield's Classic Rock. It's 8:08 and Van Halen on Rock 102.
Chance of showers today, but if it doesn't, it'll be a pretty nice day considering it's February 1st. A high of 52. It is 45 in downtown Springfield.
Andrea Nuciforo is running for Congress against Richie Neal, who has been on the show many times. He is the Register of Deeds in Pittsfield, and he's in the studio right now. Good morning. How are you?
Morning. How are you?
So we can call you Andy, right? So there's no confusion about the first name or anything like that?
Believe me, I've been called a lot of bad things. Andy's fine, Andrea's fine, whatever you want.
Well, I apologize because I just discovered this morning that Pittsfield was in Massachusetts. I always thought it was part of upstate New York.
Well, when I was in the state senate, they used to say, the senator from the Albany district.
Yeah, exactly. Let me ask you, well, first of all, let me say two words to you and see if they ring a bell at all. Joe Fountain. Do you know that name?
Joe Fountain ran in a Democratic primary in a Springfield-based congressional district in the early 90s, as I believe.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yeah, you can't even get pie for that in Trivial Pursuit.
It's such an obscure question it's never even asked.
Exactly.
In fact, I think that Joe is still around, and I think he's still active in Democratic politics somehow.
Well, the reason I ask is, and certainly, the whole premise of our government is based on the idea of hopefully replacing people when they're no longer effective. But it also seems to garner this lifelong positioning in Congress and the Senate. And if anybody around here would seem to have that position, it would be Richie Neal. Why would you? Is this about the redistricting? Does that help? Yeah.
Well, the redistricting it makes all the difference. You have to remember, politics is always about ideas and it's about ideology, but it's ultimately about math too.
Right.
You take a look at this. This is a newly drawn congressional district. There is no incumbent in this congressional district. The district that I am in right now, I live in Pittsfield. That's represented by John Olver. This newly drawn congressional district, about half, a little bit more than half, is currently represented by John Olver. Richie represents the other half, the other 47, 48, 49% of what it is. So what you have here is a brand new congressional district in western Massachusetts, and voters are entitled, I think, in a brand new district to make a choice about who they want to represent them in Washington.
This is Andy Nuciforo in the studio. The last time Richie was opposed was against Tom Wesley, and although Richie won that contest about 57% to 43%, I think many people were surprised that Tom Wesley favored so well. 43% against a Massachusetts incumbent is pretty remarkable.
And keep in mind that Tom Wesley was outspent 20-1.
Right. So my question to you is, do you think when you look at what happened during that election that Richie is at least exposed in this part of the district?
I mean, there's no question that incumbency is not something that people are embracing these days. You don't see people down in Washington saying, hey, look at me, I'm an incumbent, because people know how incumbents fare in public opinion polls, and that's been true for the last several months. In the old days, it was people didn't like Congress, but they liked their own congressman. What has happened is there's been a very pronounced shift in the way that public opinion has moved in the last several months, and that is that people are willing to give, voters are willing to give new people a chance in the United States Congress because the results have been very disappointing. And there's another thing that you got to think about here too. This district is 86 cities and towns. 86. Richie represents 20 of them. 66 of them are represented by John Olver right now. And that includes my hometown of Pittsfield, Massachusetts. It includes Holyoke. It includes Westfield. It includes West Springfield. It includes North Adams, Great Barrington, etc., East Hampton. So this is brand new territory. Certainly it's brand new for Richie. A lot of it's going to be new for me too.
But even though he's got less towns, doesn't the populations almost equal the populations of all the towns that you have?
Yes, as I mentioned, it's about a 50-50 split,
okay.
Which means it's brand new territory. I think this is going to be a gut check moment for Democratic voters. This is a year where people can actually hold accountable the representation that they have in Washington for results that I think everybody agrees have not been particularly good. Look, unemployment's been between 8 and 10% for the last 3 years. Economic growth has been flat for the last 4 or 5 years. You've got a manufacturing capacity in this country today that is about half of what it was in 1980. So you look at a lot of these economic indicators, and what you see are results that are not particularly good. That creates a great environment for a challenger like myself.
I'm on your website, Nuciforo.com, and you can find out more about Andy Nuciforo by going there. But some of the things that are talked about on your website is a call to action and super PACs and election reform. Tell us about your stance on that.
Sure. Well, as you probably know, the rise of the super PAC has occurred since that 2010 United States Supreme Court decision in Citizens United. I've heard you guys actually mention this kind of stuff on your radio program in the past. And what you see is super PACs are now these unregulated PACs that can raise unlimited amounts of money and spend them in the context of a federal campaign. That was illegal prior to the Citizens United opinion. It is no longer illegal. So, for example, Mitt Romney has a super PAC down there. Technically, these are not supposed to be coordinated with campaigns, but we all know how cute that this can be. Mitt Romney has a super PAC down there in Florida that was spending millions of dollars. Gingrich has one. Everybody's got a super PAC. That is really distorting the way that American politics works. And so, one of the things that we've come out with, and there are many others on the website, is you've got to find a way to limit the impact that super PACs can have on federal elections. I think the only way to really do that and do it permanently is to amend the United States Constitution. That is something that is proposed in Congress right now, and I think it's a great idea.
It just seems like, are you rich? Let me ask you that.
I wish I were.
Are you rich? It just seems like in this country, the rich guy wins. And Mass Live this morning even has, Richie Neal has $2.45 million cash on hand right now for this re-election. You, according to this article, have $155,000. It just, and it's not right, but it just seems as though we have gotten to a point now where the guy with the most money always wins.
When you say it's not right, what do you mean by that?
I mean, it shouldn't be right. It should be that the guy with the better ideas, the guy with the guy who appeals more to what the people want, should win. I think oftentimes the guy with the most money wins, not because he's the most popular or most well-liked or has the best ideas, it's just because he's got the most money.
Yeah, there's no question that corporate support has been a determining factor in federal elections now for several terms. And, a lot of folks think that the outcome is going to be the same in this particular primary. But there are two things that you got to think about. Number one, this is not a general election. This is a Democratic primary.
Okay.
Right.
This district has 727,000 people in it. It's a big number. There will be between 60 and 70,000 votes cast. That means that the people that will come out in this Democratic primary are sophisticated voters that have been paying attention to issues. Now, can broadcast TV, the Air Force blanket approach on broadcast TV actually make a difference? Yeah. But when you're talking to a very limited group of sophisticated Democratic voters, you're talking about people that pay attention to new issues. They read the newspapers, they listen to the radio, they're online gathering information. This is a year when people have access to information, and they're going to certainly have access to our message that it'll make a difference.
Yeah. I mean, not to focus so much on the last election, but I mean, I think it's something interesting, especially about Richie, because he has gone on a couple of occasions completely unopposed, out here in the Springfield area, and John Oliver has too, for that matter. I mean, there has never been a whole lot of contest in Western Mass for those congressional seats. But when Tom Wesley was running against him, and Richie realized, hey, there's something going on here I really need to pay attention to, suddenly then did he start campaigning. And I don't know if it was an entirely comfortable thing for him to do.
Sure.
So I wonder, for his perspective, he's now running in areas of the state that he's probably never even been to, never mind thought of representing. So as far as your exposure to this part of the district, what are you doing to get your name out there besides going to the Bax O'Brien show?
Well, I mean, this is obviously far and away the most significant thing I could do in the city of Springfield.
You are right about that. You are in
There's
trouble.
certainly
Absolutely
nothing more
right.
important that I could do than
You're in big trouble.
But we are spending a lot of time actually meeting voters, and that's true throughout Hampden County. I've been recently to every pancake breakfast and Rotary luncheon and chicken dinner in Springfield, Chicopee, Ludlow, Westfield, Holyoke. We're spending a lot of time in Hampden County. I believe that in order to convince people to vote for you, they have to actually know who you are or have an opportunity to learn something about you.
Right.
So we're spending a lot of time in the community meeting people that we suspect will be voting in that Democratic primary in 2012.
Are you talking about pancake breakfasts and chicken dinners that are thrown for the Andrea Nuciforo campaign? Because you mentioned a few moments ago, you said that the people who vote in primaries are sophisticated individuals who know the issues.
Yes.
And I've been to pancake breakfasts, and those don't look like sophisticated people to some of the ones I've been at, unless it's a specific event thrown for you. But are you saying that it's the smart ones who show at the primaries and the other ones who show up at the general elections?
Well, to answer your first question, the answer is we've been to both. We certainly have had some office parties, house parties, and so forth that have been specifically to support our campaign.
Okay.
We've also been to other things that are put on by others, by other organizations, and we get an invitation from a friend. So we've been to both, and I think that's an important part of campaigning. I also think that this is a year where ideas are going to matter. The results coming out of Washington have been, frankly, dreadful. You know, you take a look at where this economy is right now. You take a look at how much middle class and ordinary people are struggling these days. People are looking for answers. Voters want people that can offer solutions, not just the canned path that comes out of Washington that you see in the newspapers and in the media. So we're going to be offering some stuff I think that is pretty innovative, and I hope that voters react.
I just, to me, maybe I'm just soured by age and experience, but for me, I just have a tendency to believe that the average person, and we all know that the voter turnout on any election is much lower than we would like it to be, but
Yes.
it just seems to me that the average voter who turns out probably knows one thing about the candidate that they're voting for and agrees with that one thing, but doesn't know 90% of the rest of their ideas. I just don't believe that the average voter is all that intelligent as far as the candidate is concerned.
Well, I think that voters tend to make good choices. If you take a look at the history of American politics, you'll see that are they always getting the right answer? No. But I think in many cases, voters do a pretty good job of teasing out the differences between the candidates and making informed choices. And I don't think they do that in a vacuum. I don't think they focus just on a person's name. Some people say name recognition is everything, or focus on just one particular issue. I've noticed, and keep in mind, I've been on the ballot 6 times. I was in the state senate for 10 years in the Berkshire district. I find that voters develop a sense about who a person is, what kind of judgment that person would exercise under the circumstances, and I think that kind of opinion about a candidate can make a big difference come poll time.
But name recognition does count, as does facial recognition, and we apologize. I mean, we had to be told that you were a male, so I'm thinking. Billboards.
No offense.
I'm thinking billboards and bumper
I hope I've
stickers.
disabused you of any other notions, being here in the
Billboards
studio.
and bumper stickers that have your picture on it and your name, and underneath it just says, "I'm a dude."
Yeah.
And that way you get it out there.
See,
that way people learn.
Andrea, there's a good reason. There's a good reason why no one comes to Bax O'Brien for political.
No, I think that's the first thing you need to do is convince people you're a dude.
First of all, I have a question. Do I have to pay for this advice, or am I getting this for free?
No, this is on the house.
Oh, I really appreciate
this
that.
time.
Yeah.
And Andrea Nuciforo is running for Congress against Richie Neal. When is the primary?
The primary is September 6th.
So that's coming up very, very soon. So we appreciate you coming in. Best of luck. I'm sure we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
And have a safe trip back to upstate New York.
Thanks, guys.
It's 8:21 with Bax and O'Brien to Rock 102.
Andy, thanks.
Hey,
Really appreciate you coming all the way.